Recommend this bill to the House.
Honourable Marianne Street.
Mr. Speaker, I wish I could say that it gave me great pleasure to get up and speak to the third reading of this bill, but it doesn't. I'm very sorry that legislation is being passed in this way about these matters. There are some things in the bill that my colleague Ruth Dyson outlined earlier that we are perfectly happy with, and certainly she identified those things. For example, the Schedule 4 provisions we welcome, the two-tier process around permitting, complex and more straightforward applications, those sorts of things we have no trouble with. But Mr. Speaker, bad process always results in bad law. Good process sometimes results in bad law, but much less often. But bad process always results in bad law. And with the introduction of the Minister's amendment around protest vessels, we have a sneaky little amendment brought in without public scrutiny. In fact, Parliament used to prevent that amendment going back to Select Committee for proper consideration and submission. So when the Green Party moved a procedural motion that it be returned to Select Committee, the government used the weight of its numbers, regardless of the process, to deny that leave and to deny the public the opportunity to speak to this matter and to have their views made known. And so what we will have is a piece of legislation which is bad in process and bad in parts. Mr. Speaker, the explicit purpose of this bill is to promote the prospecting for and exploration for and mining of Crown-owned minerals for the benefit of New Zealand. And that's what it says in the Bill's Digest about the purpose of this piece of legislation. Mr. Speaker, this is a contentious area without any doubt. And for the Minister to proceed in a more than cavalier way, I think a sinister way, with the amendment that he introduced that will restrict protest vehicles getting within 500 metres of a drilling rig or a seagoing vessel that has mineral exploration as its purpose, is simply a denial of community upset, community disquiet about deep sea exploration. There have been sufficient examples overseas of the dangers of deep sea mining and deep sea drilling for people to be legitimately concerned. When protesters get close to property and trespass, they are arrested and they pay the price. Lucy Lawless and others recently, in relation to a Greenpeace protest at New Plymouth, were arrested when they transgressed the law, and they have paid the price for that, or are in the process of doing so. To ban protest from getting close to the object of their protest is simply a curtailment of democratic rights that we should not be tolerating in this country. Protesters often do things that are dramatic in order to get attention. And I do not want our society, in its rapacious desire led by this government for fossil fuels, for ongoing depletion of natural resources at all costs to compromise our democratic freedoms in the process. Mr. Speaker, this is in large part bad law. It encourages the development of Crown-owned minerals so they contribute more to New Zealand's economic development. Yes, on the surface, it could be a reasonable thing to do, and even a beneficial thing to do, if it were being seen in a vacuum. But at the same time, Mr. Speaker, as this piece of legislation is going through, with its tawdry little ministerial amendment, at the same time, we have RMA changes, round 1, in front of the Select Committee. We have proposals on RMA changes, round 2, and we have proposals on water quality and management, which give nobody who has an interest in this area any confidence that this government cares about the protection of the environment. There is no guarantee that in any of these provisions, which are not crowding in upon us now by accident, this is designed by government, but there is no evidence in any of this crowding of legislation and proposals for legislation that gives any people in New Zealand interested in our environment confidence that this government will protect it and intends to protect it. For example, in response to an earlier National Party speaker contributor to this debate, Jonathan Young, MP for New Plymouth, I just want to ask, on behalf of the people of Tikarangi, what is that member going to say, and what is he going to do about the community disquiet, the community concern around the Kowhai wells, especially Kowhai C, in Tikarangi, just out of Waitara. It's an area I personally know very well, spent quite a lot of my childhood there. And I wonder what, on the basis of this bill and the way this minister has ridden roughshod over community concerns and concerns expressed by notable New Zealanders who are not stupid, who are clever and intelligent and perceptive about these things. In the face of that concern, he has proceeded against due process to bring in an amendment which makes this bill a travesty. Mr. Speaker, it seems to me that Jonathan Young has now been given the right by the minister to ignore the people of Tikarangi, to simply say to the people of Tikarangi, oh yes, heard what you said, don't agree with you, you might be clever, you might be the New Zealander of the Year, but your opinion, sorry, Mr. Speaker, this is in quotation marks, might say to the people of Tikarangi, those people are clever, they might have the New Zealander of the Year amongst them, but we put no store by their opinions. That is not good enough. It might be the way John Key wants to run his cabinet, and so the new boy on the block, Simon Bridges, is following the Prime Minister's pattern, but it is not good enough if one is trying to run a democratic country which is accustomed to democratic rights and to being able to make a difference where they see the need. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Dr. Xian Yang.